Willful Disobedience, Wolfi Landstreicher. Volume 1. Play fiercely. Thoughts on growing up. To become an adult in this society is to be mutilated. The process of family conditioning and education, subtly, and often not so subtly, terrorize children, reduce their capacity for self-determination, and transforming them into beings useful to society. A well-adjusted, quote, mature, end quote, adult is one who accepts the humiliations that work and pay. Society constantly heaps upon them with equanimity. It is absurd to call the process that creates such a shriveled, mutilated being, quote, growing up. There are some of us who recognize the necessity of destroying work if we are to destroy authority. We recognize that entirely new ways of living and interaction need to be created, ways best understood as free play. Unfortunately, some of the anarchists within the milieu cannot see beyond the fact that the adults as we know it is a social mutilation, and tend to idealize childhood in such a way that they embrace an artificial infantilism, donning masks of childishness to prove they've escaped this mutilation. In doing so, they limit the games they can play, particularly those games aimed at the destruction of the society. At the age of 40, I am still able to take pleasure in playing such, quote, children's games as hide-and-seek or tag. Certainly, if growing up is not to be belittled process of becoming a socialized adult, none of the pleasures or games of our younger days should be given up. Rather, they should be refined, expanded, opening up ever greater possibilities for creating marvelous lives and destroying the society. The games invented by those anarchists who have trapped themselves in their artificial infantilism are not this sort of expansive play, or not nearly enough so. Becoming, quote, mud people, end quote, in the business district of a city, playing clown at a shopping center, parading noise orchestras through banks and other businesses is great fun, and can be even a wee bit subversive. But those who consider these games significant challenge to the social system are deluding themselves. People working in offices, factories, banks, and shops do not need to be taught that there are better things to do with their time than work. Most are quite aware of this. But a global system of social control compels people to participate in this reproduction in order to guarantee themselves a certain level of survival. As long as the domination of the system seems to be inevitable and eternal, most people will adjust themselves and often feel a resigned contentment with their, quote, lot, end quote. So anarchist insurgents need to develop much fiercer, riskier games of violent attack against the system of control. I have been chided many times for associating play with violence and destruction, occasionally by, quote, serious revolutionaries, end quote, who tell me that the war against the power structures is no game. More often by the proponents of anarcho-infantilism, who tell me that there is nothing playful about violence. What all of these chiders have in common is that they do not understand how serious play can be. If the game one is playing is that of creating and projecting one's life for oneself, then one will take one's play quite seriously. It is not mere reaction in this case, but one's very life. This game inevitably brings one into conflict with society. One can respond to this in a merely defensive manner, but this leaves one in a stalemate, with retreat becoming inevitable. When one's passions for intense living, one's joy in the game of creating one's own life, and interactions is great enough, then mere defenses will not do. Attack, violent attack, becomes an essential part of the game, a part in which one can take great pleasures, Here one encounters an adventure that challenges one's capabilities, develops one's imagination as a practical weapon, takes one beyond the realm of survival's hedged bets into the world of genuine risk that is life. Can the laughter of joy exist anywhere else than in such a world, where the pleasure we take in fireworks increases 100-fold, when we know that the fireworks are blowing up a police station, a bank, a factory, or a church? For me, growing up can only mean the process of creating more intense and expansive game, of creating our lives for ourselves. As long as authority exists, this means games of violent attack against all of the institutions of society, aiming at the total destruction of these institutions. Anything less will keep us trapped in the infantile adulthood the society imposes. I desire much more.